Hello, once Forest Focus. Nottingham Forest finished pre-season with a 4-3 win at Olympiacos as they scored 3 goals from set pieces. Yes, 3 before Anthony Elanga scored a wonder goal. Well, they did have a few ropey defensive moments of their own. We'll discuss all that, plus a reported bid for a Brazil international winger and perhaps the collapse of the Ramon Sosa deal in the company of, first of all, Michael Temple. Temps, how you doing?
Good, mate. Been stuck in cricket mode for a fair few days. So, yeah, nice to take in a Forest game.
Yes, yeah, it was a good game. We'll get into that. Chris Aylmer from Forest All Over's with us. Chris, good to have you back. And obviously you missed last week after, your sad news around your father passing. Loads of messages from people wishing you well. So, yeah, obviously we had those from us as well. So good to have you back. How you doing?
Yeah. Obviously, had better weeks, but really kind to see all the messages that came through. I actually was pretty overwhelmed by the amount of Forest fans that reached out. People don't even know me, so it was really, really nice. But good to have Forest back as a distraction as well. Good to see us win tonight and end the pre-season on a high and go into a new season.
Just kick us off, Chris, just with general thoughts on the game overall. Obviously, you say then nice to win, lots to like. Anything to particularly worry you, or is it just pre-season games get ragged towards the end?
Some of the defending was a bit sloppy. If you look at the goals, particularly the first and their third, the first goal. I know we'll get into the goal specifically, but I felt like Murillo was caught out for the first goal. He was cooked fairly heavily. The last goal they scored as well. Three of our defenders were sort of dragged between Murillo, Omobamidele, Neco Williams. I felt Danilo was a bit out of position. He stepped up to the man, and then they all kind of stepped up, which shows a little bit of inexperience. Nothing majorly to worry about. We won 4-3. We scored a bag of goals. Olympiacos are a good side. They won the Europa Conference League. We were in their backyard as well, so nothing to worry about majorly. But yeah, some sloppy defending, which was a little bit worrisome, but yeah, I'm happy with how we played today. And, watching a preseason game can be boring. There was a few 1-0s or 0-0s in the preseason. So see 4-3 is actually quite nice.
Yeah, we'll get into the specifics around what Chris says there, but just in general temps, so are you more glass half full? I mean, you've got to be happy because we won it. If we score 4 goals, we're a good side. So yeah, I don't want to sound negative, but like Chris said, a few ropey moments, but overall happy with that one.
Meaningful game, felt more intense than Villarreal. They were willing to put the foot in. Think we needed that. Felt more like match pace. It was a bit of a procession, wasn't it, at Forest last Friday? So happy with that. I like what Elliot Anderson brings, both in terms of set pieces and just that strength, that willingness to have the ball in traffic and come out and affect the game. I think he's a type of player which we really need in that mix. Sangare looks fitter, firing. Hope this is the time for him to prove himself and become everything that we need to be. And the two things that are on my mind in terms of team selection for Bournemouth are Woody's probably ahead of Taiwo on fitness. He's probably going to have that shirt at first. And I just wonder what the internal thoughts are on the goalkeeping issue. Seems to me that Sells is ahead of Carlos Miguel, hasn't had his finest moment tonight. And obviously rumours that we're looking at others. So I think that's probably justified. I can see why Forest may still look to do business in that particular position. And I'm not going to read too much into the result or the lapses. Boys have got to the point they need to be fitness-wise. The style and the intensity seems to be there. And the real business starts on the 17th.
Yeah, good points. I agree totally about Sangare. A few people in the chat saying, and Mark in the chat, he's saying like a new signing. Yeah, spot on. And the goalkeeper as well. Do want to come on to the goalkeeper? Just on the starting lineup temps, it was interesting. How close to that do you think it was for what we'll see v Bournemouth? I suspect it's not like 11 out of 11, maybe 7 out of 11.
Yeah, something like that. I don't expect Dominguez to start the first game. I think Anderson will do well to be in there too. Your back four will probably see the return of Milenkovic. I think the other 3 are inked in. I think Woody's inked in for game 1 and then comes under pressure from Taiwo. And there's a couple of guys on the margins, aren't there? I mean, Elanga's done himself no harm there, showing that he's able to score a kind of Giorgio Kinkladze goal, having picked the ball up on halfway. He just seems to get stronger, fitter, hone his physical attributes, and just so much wiser with the ball did okay. His production was pretty good last season, but he spurned plenty of chances as well. I just think he's a player that's still got untapped value. I like how we look with two wingers, so I do hope Elanga and Hudson-Odoi start. Morgan Gibbs-White will obviously be inked in, and he'll be the player that we build the team around. But we've seen the players involved tonight, the existing players that are going to be involved in the side, haven't we? We know why the lads that aren't involved. They're probably not going to be in the car park in a week or two. But transfer window hasn't closed yet. I'm convinced we're going to see 3 or 4 new faces coming through the door. But I think if we were to have a guess at starting 11 now, we'd be at least 9/10 of the way there.
I think so. 550 people with us inside 5 minutes, which is brilliant. So do us a favour and hit like on the stream if you haven't already. That would be a big help. I agree with Temps, Chris. I think we'll play wingers v Bournemouth. So Anderson's kind of the interesting name to me, because just for the quality of his set pieces, there's almost a case to find a way to get him in the team. We saw Morgan last season not really deliver the quality you want. But tonight we've seen Anderson pick a really good ball out for the first goal. And then the third goal that's whipped in off the post was excellent as well. Can you pick a player just for set pieces, or does he merit a spot for what we've seen from him pre-season ahead of, I guess, Danilo maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he might get the 8 spot. Sangare play the 6 and him play the 8. But Danilo didn't look fantastic today, but he's very raw and he's talented, and I'd like to see him play. So it's difficult. I think Elanga and Hudson-Odoi have to start. Just Hudson-Odoi is, he's our biggest attacking threat, in my opinion. And Elanga, as Temp said, he did himself, he did himself massive favours today with a wonderful finish. And I just feel like the only way to get Anderson in is in the 8. The set pieces were brilliant today, though. If you look at the goals, I think there was 3 of the goals were from set pieces, and obviously one of them was a mistake by the goalkeeper, but one of them was a beautiful ball to Wood, and the other one was swung in, missed by Bolly, hit the post, and that's I don't know if there's a case to bring him in just for set pieces, but I would start him at the 8. He's playing very well, strong, good on the ball, good football IQ. So for me, it would be him in the 8, and then the usual 4 in front of that.
Yeah, it's a good debate, and I'm sure a welcome one that Nuno will thrash out this week. Another player to talk about, Temps, and I think you do start him definitely because you want to build long-term defensive partnerships, is Murillo. Tonight, I feel like I'm focusing on him too much maybe, but he's given 2 penalties away in pre-season. Tonight, that first goal, I think a fully sharp Premier League Murillo stops it. And then he's got under a header and he's got away with a couple of things. Does he definitely start for you?
Yeah, he does. He'll come through as well. I agree. Those frailties are there, and if you've watched pre-season, you're not scouting the same player that you were scouting watching his Premier League games last year. But those progressive attributes that he brings, the calmness on the ball, the ability to ping a pass. Yeah, some might say, great. So what if his position is not quite there and he doesn't head and tackle as well as the best players in the Premier League? But you need a dynamic centre half. It's how you launch your attacks. It's very few long goal kicks these days, and he's going to be the linchpin that launches most of our possession. So not his finest moments individually, if you were to analyse the goals, but he'll come good. He's a special talent. He's ingratiated himself to Forest fans, his teammates, and scouts across Europe. I think this is his last season with Forest because he'll just command such a fee if he is able to have a consistent time in the Premier League. But I'm not concerned about him. He starts every game for me.
Thank you very much I love some of these YouTube names. Bushed for becoming a member. Very good of you. Thank you very much for the support, and everyone that signed up of late. Quite a few people have, so that's really good of them. What about you, Chris? I suppose the thing is Milenkovic and Bolly aren't the most mobile. I don't see them as a pair, so I kind of feel like you've got to play Murillo, otherwise you're looking at Omar Bamidele, aren't you?
Yeah, left-footed centre-back, as Temp said, very progressive on the ball. I think he was criticised last year. The only criticisms we had of him was for being overconfident, but now I kind of want to see that confidence again, because when he hesitates, that seems to be when he kind of makes the mistakes, giving away a couple of penalties, or today when he hesitated, stepped in a little bit and then was done on the outside by Gelson. But I personally would definitely start Murillo all day long. he was our best player last season. Just because he had a couple of trip ups in preseason doesn't make a difference to me. I'd start him and Milenkovic, really, the two of them. Milenkovic right centre back and Murillo left centre back. But yeah, no doubts for me. I just want to see. I hope this doesn't knock his confidence too much. Probably won't, because he's a 21-year-old, 22-year-old now, wonder kid. But yeah, I all day long he starts for me, and I think it'd be a mistake to drop him because of a couple of preseason games.
Yeah, I would definitely pick him as well. It's a little bit of a concern. Hopefully, he's just one of those players that hates preseason, and we'll just see the best of him. He's obviously got the talent that I hope he can flick the switch when we play Bournemouth. I just wonder if he's physically at the same level as the other teammates in terms of match sharpness. But I'd still back him, certainly. Another member signing up in Peter. Thanks very much, Peter Federo. Very good of you to join our little group. Thanks very much for that. Let's talk about expand on Matt Sells then, Temps. Again, I don't know. He just didn't inspire confidence tonight. What did you make of him?
Look, he's a 7 out of 10 replacing a 4 out of 10, isn't he? So we were initially relieved that he could do the things that we needed a keeper to do. He was a January transfer window signing. I'm sure he was the best available, and he was well scouted. He didn't materially let us down, and he improved the side. But is he a top 10 Premier League goalkeeper? No, not in my opinion. I think that if we were to find the likes of Sam Johnston or Aaron Ramsdale, it still seems a lofty, ambitious transfer to me. If that kind of player was available, I completely see why we'd want to bring them in, because I haven't been completely sold on any Forest goalkeeper since Brice Samba, because he just inspired confidence, made saves he wasn't entitled to make, and was almost an automatic pick in the Forest side. Now, he had that one wobble after the Millwall game. So no, I'm not surprised to see Sells come under pressure. I think he's ahead of Carlos Miguel. I think that's pretty clear from the selections we've seen in pre-season. They've wanted to give Sells the minutes, wanted to give him the opportunity. I'm not concerned about him. He's not the player that's getting ridiculed in the pub after the games. He's a massive upgrade on Matt Turner. And if we're not able to secure one of those top tier transfer targets, I think we should stick with him. There's no need to change for the sake of change there. But he hasn't had his finest game tonight. And a goalkeeper is judged in a different way to outfield players in pre-season. There's no reason why they shouldn't be commanding their skills from the off, claiming those crosses, being a bit more reactive, holding the ball. He probably parried a little bit more tonight than we would have liked him to do. His distribution's good, but there are a couple of panic clearances tonight. I'm massively overanalyzing a pre-season performance from a goalkeeper, but I think there will still be top tier goalkeepers on our list. But I'm not unduly concerned.
Yeah, I think that's what we do these post-match streams. We go in depth on games and we do overanalyze pre-season. There were just a couple of bits tonight. Like the third goal, it was kind of unorthodox and it hit the post, and then they scored from it. And the thing that caught my eye the most was when he came out and that guy lobbed him and he should have scored. Yeah, and I just wonder, and maybe again reading too much into it, does he know that Forest are looking elsewhere? Does he feel a bit under pressure? You shouldn't, because he's an experienced pro. And again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but all the chat in the comments is about Ramsdale and Sam Johnston and stuff. And I guess players know when that's happening. I don't know why Miguel wasn't involved. I haven't seen anything on Twitter, but it does look like he's well out of the picture. Just your thoughts, Chris, on Sells and the goalkeeping situation now with a week to go?
Well, it's funny because a couple of weeks ago when someone mentioned Ramsdale, I was like, no, we're fine. We have it sorted. Miguel can back up Sells and Sells is grand. And now I'm looking at it and going, a couple of shaky moments today. And who's our backup? Miguel, who's not yet there or confident enough to be our number one. So maybe the people behind the scenes know what they're doing and they're looking around. I just hope we have competition with the two goalkeepers. I know nowadays people say you have a number one and you shouldn't be doing a Raya Ramsdale situation that Arsenal did last season. But actually, I'd like to see some good, healthy competition. So if Miguel's not going to be pushing Sells, then yeah, let's bring in another goalkeeper. But other than that, preseason game, he's done reasonably well in preseason. Sells, he's been fairly competent. I've no issues with him. Today he was shaky. That's just a fact. But we'll see how it goes when we start the Premier League. I would like Now I'd like, because I'm nervous, another backup goalie. Or if Miguel's the one to push him, fine. That 2 goalies is grand. But we don't want to see ourselves in a situation where we're pushing down the pecking order and all of a sudden Matt Turner is the man we turn to again. But I'd like to see another goalie in. But for now, I'd start Sells all day long ahead of Miguel anyway, just for pure confidence in what we've seen last season.
Yeah, I don't think you can start Miguel now because he's barely featured, and obviously you're not going to start Turner. So, Sells has got the shirt, did well. Like Direct Temp says, 7 out of 10 in the Premier League, and that's what you kind of lean on and hopefully don't read too much into pre-season. He was a bit of a late arrival as well because he was at the Euros, so maybe slightly disjointed one for him. Like I said, a week to go, which means it's Bournemouth coming up. So you can watch
Seamless transition there, Matt.
Well, I must confess, I never played that video. I just downloaded and stuck it in. I was like, oh Christ, that's loud. So yeah, that shocked me. It was a good video. So get down to Nav before the Bournemouth game is the place to go. Temps wants to come in there, I'm sure, and laugh at me.
No, it wouldn't be like me to make a smart comment about your production skills, so you just carry on.
Well, I shall do. God, over 700 people with us tonight, which is lovely. Inside 15 minutes, and do hit like I said. Talk about Chris Wood a little bit, Thames, because he's going to start the season. Interesting performance tonight because he wasn't massively involved in open play. It was sort of a typical Chris Wood performance. He's alive in the box, showed his goal scorer's instincts. Obviously, a tap in for the second goal, but he goes into pre-season with some confidence, I guess. I think he scored 3 or 4 goals for us.
He's won me over. I battered him when he first came. He was part of that movement from Newcastle, wasn't he? And we know what happened to John Joe, but he just couldn't get going. But when he did, he caught fire. And that Newcastle hat-trick is something I'll never forget. Add that to the way he scores goals. He's a real thinker. That back of the head finish, the nous to be where he was to tap in a team goal against Man City. There's so much more to Chris Wood than meets the eye, having watched him at Burnley on Match of the Day for however many years. And I'm now really sold on him as a footballer. Of course, Taiwo, when he's fit and firing, is that little bit more dynamic and probably worries defenders a bit more in different ways. But I've got so much confidence in Chris Wood. I think he's a 12 to 15 goal a season man, and he's going to be an important player for us this year. He won't start 38 games. He won't score 20 goals, but he's the type of player that has a floor, has a baseline that you need when you're trying to survive first and foremost, and then kick on towards mid-table. He's had a good pre-season. I really rate him, and we saw flashes again today, the knockdown for Yates' goal and such like, as to why he's now so highly rated by Forest fans. I think he's come on leaps and bounds, and we've learned how to get the best out of him.
I don't think I like him so much in the formation we played first half because he needs width, I think, to thrive. And we played this very narrow midfield, which is interesting. You were mentioning it in the first half, Chris, on WhatsApp to me, saying you didn't think we'd play it. And I agree, I don't think we'll play it v Bournemouth, but is it something we might play v big clubs, especially away from home, be narrow, be hard to play through with Anderson and Morgan as 2 10s almost?
Potentially, but I mean, then, we're dropping all the wingers we've got now. You know what I mean? Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Jota Silva. We might have another one, Galeno, coming in. Who knows? We're dropping all these wingers. So I think it's unlikely, but there is a possibility, of course, of playing a little more narrow. Surprising to see Yates and Sangari in the same team. I don't think we're going to see it that often this season. But, as for Wood, I feel like it doesn't matter. He feeds off scraps. He's just been brilliant, hasn't he? Since we've doubted him, he's been brilliant, really. Like he's a smooth operator in the box. There was 3 occasions where I think it was the first goal was his head back across. The second goal, it actually wasn't a tap in, Matt. I think it was an overhead kick, which is still a difficult skill to do.
From a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah.
But just like fair play to him. And even that goal, was it Yates' goal, the third goal? Where he knocked it back for his head across. Like, his anticipation's been really good. I mean, we've looked back to Burnley, some of the record he had there. I think he had 3 or 4 seasons where he scored 10 to 15 goals for them. We shouldn't really be surprised, but we thought it might be sort of the twilight of his career. And then he comes to us, bangs in 14 last season. Yeah, I think with him, if he doesn't feed off the wingers, he'll feed off the set pieces. As Temp said, he's not going to play every single game of the season, and Taiwo definitely is more dynamic, but it's just so good to have an experienced centre forward who we can rely on when Taiwo's not fit. We still need another striker, I think, and I think we will get another striker before the window closes. But yeah, as for the formation, I don't think we're going to be playing narrow like that too often. I don't think you'll see Yates and Sangare in the same team, unless we're playing a Man City, like you said. But for the most part, I think we'll be having those wingers on and going at teams and progressing a little more this season, climbing the table.
Tom in the chat has slightly aggressively preempted my next question going into midfield. I was going to ask about expanding on Sangare next, ask Temps about that, because we just touched on him at the top. The way he started the game, Temps, showed me that he's really, as Lucky Robot says in the chat, flying. Like in terms of confidence, mobility, moving the ball. I thought he was probably the best player on the pitch tonight, even for 50 minutes, however long he played.
Yeah, that bit in possession is important. I know Mark Sutherland shared some stats in the group in the week about the frequency of his tackling. I think Sangare can be that all-round central midfielder that's comfortable in possession, is a bit of a destroyer without the ball. And that's important. There's players that can win possession and have to tap it to the right back, and there's players that progressive passers but struggle to gain possession. I think he can be that for Forest, and he could be an automatic pick if he played to his potential. It's just been so stop-start for him to this point, and he kind of became a bit of a forgotten man. And there's no player that I want to have a good season as much as Sangare, not just because we dropped the cash on him, but because everything we've seen from before he arrived suggested he's a far better player than the body of work that he's got at Forest. First half today demonstrated that. I think there's been flashes throughout pre-season, and his challenge now needs to be to start the first 5 games, play well, keep his place, find that rhythm, and just stay in the side. Because I think if we are celebrating Sangare as a player and his influence on the team, we can be 10 to 12 points better off than we were last season.
I think he's laid the foundations for a really good season. He must have put the yards in, or his health returned after whatever happened to him after AFCON. Reports he had malaria and stuff. So yeah, he looks really well set. Did you see the Vinicius Sousa rumor, Chris? Did you see that one, or did you see it?
I didn't.
Temps?
No,
I'll ask Temps about it, because we were chatting in the group chat. We were tentatively linked with Vinicius Sousa from Sheffield United. Kind of scoffed at it a bit. Mark put some really interesting stats in around tackles, but do you think we need another number 6? And should it be Sousa, Temps?
I hope we don't, because that can be answered by Sangare, right? And in a slightly different style. Danilo, Yates, Dominguez, Elliot Anderson has some defensive qualities. So I don't think that is a position where we need that type of player if Sangare is what we hope he's going to be. So no, for me, there are priorities elsewhere on the side. Yeah,
I don't disagree. I know Mark's very keen for us to sign another 6, but I think as long as Sangare is not missing for 20 games or something, I think you can cover that with Dominguez's energy and Danilo's enthusiasm, and all that kind of stuff will get you through. Ryan Yates got 2 goals tonight, Chris. I don't think it really changed my opinion of where he starts, but obviously, great for him, and he takes some confidence in. But is he threatening a start for you or not?
No, I don't think so. I'd love to say yes, and I love Yates, we all do, but Sangare just looked, even the first 10, 15 minutes today, he was playing samba football, dribbling it in the air, knocking it back to players, skinning other players in the midfield and spreading it like prime Scalzi at times the first 15 minutes. And I thought, right, well, Yates is good, but he's not that good. And yeah, for me, I think Sangare starts all day long, and I only want 1-6 in the starting lineup. So for me, unfortunately not. But look, he's good cover. He constantly and consistently proves himself against the odds whenever he stepped up. And last season, Sangare didn't have a great season. And who was there? Ryan Yates. So I think he'll start a few games this season, but only as sort of more of a rotational load management more than anything else. Or on the occasion where we play both of them in midfield and try and sort of sit back, absorb the pressure and counter. But no, I think Sangare starts, but I'm glad Yates got his 2 goals, and I still like him there as a figurehead, as someone in the dressing room, as someone who cares about the club. And I do think he's a better footballer than most people give him credit for. It's just Sangare is exponentially better, technically anyway.
Yates is a squad player, but he keeps himself in nick and in form that when he's called upon, there's no qualm. He could have had a hat-trick today. It would have been a finish from that. Danilo free kick down the corridor, and Yates, it's difficult technique trying to swing it in from there. But he's clearly worked on getting himself into the box more. The positioning for his second goal off the Chris Woods miss hit was impressive. And there are goals for central midfielders between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box. And it's a position that he doesn't take up particularly frequently historically. He hasn't been blessed with scoring goals, but he is a commanding header of the ball. And I think if he can find those positions and time those runs, there's 6-7 goals a season for Yates if he gets the minutes. But look, he is a squad player. He's a willing squad player. I think he's a great club man, obviously. He's the one remaining link to the promotion season, to the academy. And I know we shouldn't be necessarily romantically thinking about that, but it does resonate with the fan base. He'll always be popular in my eyes. I know he has his doubters, but believe me, he'll have a role to play this season.
He will. I thought he had a good game tonight, but you can literally, as we all know, anyone watching this knows you can only pick 11 players, and probably only 3 or 4 of those at very most are going to be midfield players. So it's where he fits in and where he fits in tactically to get the most of players around him. I mean, someone Todd Brimson makes good. He does help others play to their ceilings. I agree with that. That's a good point. But it's how you fit him in. But yeah, as Dan says, he's written off every season. He does keep raising his game. So no one would be surprised if he did it again, certainly.
We will need him, by the way, just to before you move on, we will need Yates this season. There will be moments where we need him to dig in. There was moments last season, even against Man United over Christmas time. He had a wonderful game, and he was essential in the build to both those goals. And against Sheffield United last season, I do believe it's really important to keep him in the squad because we will need him this season. We need to dig in when the heads drop. And there is a lot to be said for that. And all his off the ball work is amazing as well. All those free kicks he wins and how he plays and how he rallies the troops. So yeah. Just on an off point aside, no, we're definitely going to need him this season. It's just he probably won't start.
I quite like people when they drop in a totally random name in a chat. Most of the time I ignore them, but sometimes it's interesting to throw them at people. What about Jordan Henderson on the cheap? His stock is low. We could maybe get him. I mean, he's not going to be cheap because his wage is going to be absolutely mental, I'd imagine. Is that a bit too left field for you, even with his CV and quality?
I don't rate the fact that he went to Saudi Arabia when he was in his prime, but I can understand why 400 grand a week tax-free would appeal to a particular mindset. I've never had the opportunity, so it wasn't a decision that I've ever had to make. But no, I think we've learned the lesson from the Lingard saga. He's a different profile of player, but is his head in the game to dig in and motivate himself, a la Ross Barkley, I suppose, last season, who's not on Jordan Henderson's plane in an international footballer sense, but to squeeze out a particular attitude that I think you need to operate successfully in the bottom and middle third of the Premier League. So no, I don't see us gunning for Jordan Henderson.
No, I'd agree. It's interesting. A totally random name I hadn't thought of, so I thought I'd ask it. But I don't think he fits where we're at as a club at the moment. Doesn't really fit what we're doing. So let's talk about. We can't not talk about Elanga's goal, Chris. I mean, pretty insane. The kind of what goal a winger scores, dreams about. A young Temple would have replayed that one in his mind over and over again. But what did you make of it?
I think Thames has scored better goals, to be honest with you. I've seen one of those volleys in that 6-a-side game. Stick it back on Twitter there. It's an absolute cracker. But no, look, brilliant goal. Elanga, I mentioned this maybe earlier on, that, he gets criticised for his finishing and his feet and his dribbling and his final product. I've criticised him last year for that, even though he had a really good season. But everything was on point there. And when he puts it all together, you got pace, power, dribbling, finish. It's pretty remarkable, like Callum Hudson-Odoi on the other side. So, yeah, unbelievable finish. Will do his confidence the world of good, and that's what we need to see. We need to see more of those sort of mazy runs and finishes. And I don't even mind late in the second half, he got chopped down, but he tried to come across the defender again. The defender said, "Nope, not having this." But I like that because it means that he's doing the right thing, cutting across the defender, running down the centre, creating space for the runners, and either finishing or laying it off. And yeah, great goal, lovely finish. For all the reasons that we criticised him for last year, the final product, lovely, and it'll do his confidence a world of good. And I want to start him and Hudson-Odoi against Bournemouth. The two of them scare the life out of their defenders.
Just a bit of insight I've heard from within the camp about with Elanga having played Champions League football so early in his career. One of the lines the coaches have used to motivate him is to get back there, and very coachable. Extremely technically minded. His fitness is almost beyond anything else in the squad. Completely dedicated to his training and continuous improvement. I know his dad was a long-time pro as well, wasn't he? And the intelligence of a lad who speaks 5 languages and just demonstrated tonight what he's capable of. That was a special goal. I was surprised he didn't get sideswiped by the centre half after he'd rinsed 3 or 4 of his teammates. You definitely get clobbered on that kind of run outside the box in the Premier League, but kept his cool for the finish. And I'd be really pleased if he started the first game. I think he's a player that will continue to improve. He was ostensibly Brennan Johnson's replacement, and he hasn't let himself down for Forest. Yes, we've been frustrated when he's got into great positions and missed the finish, but he scored some decent goals last season. And we've just seen the best goal he scored for Forest, albeit in a relatively low-key fixture. But I think we're going to see improvement from Elanga this season. Hope he starts the first game.
I think Chris probably summed it up when he said when he puts it all together or something along those lines. Like, he's got all the raw materials, but he probably signed for Forest because he couldn't string it all together consistently. So if we can see that this season, like we saw flashes last season, then obviously he's going to be a real big player for us. I think my daughter thinks that if she pulls her hood up, she's like invisible apparently when she
special
walks
extra
through.
In the background there.
Yeah, exactly.
I saw her one boy, yeah.
I've had this with all manner of characters, mate. They do it once, then you have to give them a real severe reprimand, Matt. So is she going to get her pocket money whipped now, or you're going to make her watch Derby's pre-season fixtures? What's the punishment?
I don't know. I'll make you get out of bed 15 minutes earlier because she was so late getting ready for Holiday Club this morning. I was like, just carry your shoes to the car and put them on. So I made her walk down the street with no socks on, no shoes on. So that was a preemptive punishment for that. Right.
She's getting you back.
Exactly. Just finally, probably on the game. I mean, they probably should have drawn the game, Olympiacos, but I guess temps like Paul Anderson said on the commentary, games get ragged when you make changes. It gets a little stretch. Players who aren't necessarily going to start come on. So no worries there for me. So how are you feeling about where we're at right now, having seen it all?
Yeah, that header late on was the golden chance to equalise, right? And I think you're right. 4-4, we've probably got no complaints. The one thing I'll say is, having been to the friendlies pre-season last year and look back at that Notts County team sheet and the like, there's still going to be changes here. There's far more recruitment to come than we probably imagine. And while it's nice to see that there are far less weak links or players that are unable to play in the Premier League in this squad now, we've come such a long way. And I have to believe that we're equipped to get, as I said earlier, 10 to 12 points more in the Premier League than we were last season, off the back of young players improving, more consistency, less of a rotating door policy. But I still believe that money will be spent. I'm becoming less concerned about outgoings, dare I say it. And I think we'll be surprised by the volume of business that's done between now and the start of the window. Such a good fixture to open with, if I can say that. I think it allows us to take the temperature on where the side's at. And yeah, just got this lovely vision on the 17th of tipping up and winning our first game at home.
I hope so. I mean, probably not a lot depends on Solanke, but some of it depends on Solanke. And if he goes and they're left with think their only recognised strikers a lad they signed on a free from Sheffield United in Jebison, I think his name is. So yeah, I feel confident about that. We'll pick that up next week with a match preview and full season preview. Just any final thoughts on the game before we move on to some transfer chat, Chris?
Not really. Someone in the comments just mentioned, would it not be better to have Elanga come on late on and have a run at the run of fresh legs, at tired legs in the opposition team? And I don't think so. I think what Elanga displayed tonight was obviously the final product. But players like him, they always look wasteful because people like Brennan and him, they get like 3 or 4 chances in a game to run in behind defenders. And if they miss 1 or 2 of them, you go, oh, it was a good chance. But it's their pace that created that chance in the first place. I'd have him getting those 3 or 4 chances in the game. I think the biggest positive from today really comes from, just banging in 4 goals and looking dangerous from set pieces, which is nice. I was typing to you as we were about to score that first goal. Oh, I hope we score from a set piece, and then we scored from it. So, 3 set pieces, albeit a goalkeeping error from one of them, 3 set pieces. Three offensive set pieces and 3 goals is pretty positive, and we can take a lot from that. I just think we look deeper all around, all across the pitch. Seeing the amount of squad members roll in and roll out, and it's not loads of academy players like we've had in previous pre-seasons. No disrespect to the academy, but when you have really deep positions and like 2 players for every single position that look good and could basically compete to start pretty much all of them, apart from Gibbs White's position, of course, then you're in good hands. And that's the biggest positive takeout. We look really, really, really deep, and I'm excited. And I think we've had a good preseason. Hopefully, we don't do a Chelsea who had a really good preseason last year and then not such a great season. But
Chris, even if there's no more recruitment, do you feel that we're equipped to score more goals? I do.
Yeah, but I wouldn't like to test the waters on half-fit Taiwo and Chris Wood in the late stage of his career. That's me. We do need a number 9, a striker. When we've played a false 9 in pre-season, I haven't been too confident, if I'm honest with you. So, no, I'd rather get a striker in. But everywhere else on the pitch, yeah, I'm happy.
Stuart in the comments, going way back, nicely timed on strikers, mentioned Santiago Jimenez and says he lives in Mexico. I love how some of our listeners live in far-fetched places in the world. I know Chris used to live in Canada, but Mexico's pretty exotic. So, yeah, that's certainly interesting. Have you seen anything of Jimenez? What do you make of that, Thames? It's a lot of money, 35 million from the Dutch league. We touched on it a bit yesterday, but what's your take on that striker situation? Do we have to look somewhere more proven if we can find that player?
Yeah, it'd be an unqualified opinion because I've seen YouTube highlights. So I'd think twice personally about dropping that level of investment on that kind of player. Having said that, there's clearly some scouting insight in and amongst South American footballers that has served as well to this point. There's not as many Premier League teams making bold moves as we have, and unearthed a couple of players that weren't really on the radar and have gone on to establish themselves in the side. So it would be an unqualified comment for me to suggest that we should or shouldn't drop £35 million there. But yeah, that marquee striker is something I'd like to see. And I say it all the time, I'd love for it to be someone with Premier League pedigree, but you're not going to find that for £35 million.
No, you're not. I can't think of any proven Premier League striker, unless they're injury prone. Like Callum Wilson's probably the one that springs to mind, but I'm not signing Callum Wilson if I'm Forest, because you've got 2 injury worry strikers. So you're not going to sign him as well. So yeah, I mean, you look at obviously it's a ridiculous comparison, but Alvarez is Man City's second choice striker, and he's going for 80 million quid. But he's top class. But it just shows the depth and the cost of Premier League strikers is mental. So we're going to need some savvy scouting, certainly. Talking of savvy scouting, there's an interesting rumour tonight that Fabrizio Romano's tweeted. Galeno, if I'm saying that right, or Galeno, Porto winger, age 26, won Brazil cap for England earlier this year. 40 million euros is the asking price with Juventus linked. He played 48 games last season, 16 goals, 12 assists. Continuing unqualified opinions, Chris, because I don't watch much Portuguese football. What do you make of it in terms of, is it us just going all out for a winger? Is it us trying to give Tavares a nudge over Sosa? I mean, on paper, this sounds a very ambitious deal that looks great, when you see the numbers and his CV.
Might be Tavares, giving Tavares a nudge for Sosa. Yeah, that might be what it is. I did the same as Temps, watched highlights on YouTube and noticed he loved the little cut in and whip shot like Callum Hudson-Odoi does for us, and he looked pretty pacey. And I think he scored against Arsenal, did he, last season?
Yeah, he
really,
did,
really good goal.
Missed the
But I
penalty
mean,
as well. Yeah.
yeah, and look, he looks good. I think the thing that caught my eye the most is he did play 48 games last season, and he played 52 the season before. So he's good and fit, and he'll be able to play the whole season and run it through cup games and everything by the looks of things, provided he doesn't get a big injury or anything. But for me, I don't know enough about him. I just think it's another ambitious effort to try and sign a player when we should be, we've got our wingers. I think Elanga and Hudson-Odoi are our wingers. Are we going to bring in someone else to push them? Or are we going to bring in someone else to kind of be their sort of semi-backups like Jota Silva will be, or like Sosa might be? I don't know. I would hold fire on the big money signings, and that includes a striker. I don't think we need to be buying a Dutch league prolific striker for 30 million plus. I think we just need a third striker to push the other two a little bit. And I know a lot of people weren't sweet on Che Adams, but I wouldn't have minded a third striker as Che Adams on a free. And yeah, I don't know. We're sort of running out of wingers to sign, and I think this is probably to give a little nudge towards Sosa and get that deal done. And I still think that deal probably will get done, to be honest.
I guess ambition's the word, isn't it, Tim? So this is a player with a great record, but I don't know. Our transfer budget must be absolutely mad. I'm starting to worry about PSR because I'd rather drop the money on a striker than a winger to that degree when we've got two good starting wingers and we've got a bit of backup in Jota, or probably good backup in Jota and Elliot Anderson. It kind of feels to me like that kind of money probably needs to go elsewhere in the team. I don't know.
My hunch is Galeno is beyond us. I also think we're probably in a relatively good position for PSR. I think the French moves got us over that before the Newcastle manoeuvres, which hopefully have given us a little bit of breathing space for this current cycle. But I've watched a little bit more of that player, and I think with the Juventus interest and the Brazil cap to his name already, he's not an under the radar signing. He's not someone that we're pulling from obscurity. He's more proven in Europe, and it would be really, really tough to attract. And as Chris said, I think we've got to be happy with the return that we've had so far from Anthony Elanga and Callum Hudson-Odoi. I think they carry in more than enough threat against bottom half Premier League teams. And I think there's improvement to come from both of them. So I'd be delighted and slightly surprised if we were to get this one across the line. But it would be great to have another game breaker in there who can take a bit of creative pressure off those three guys, adding MGW to the mix that we're so reliant on for creativity and assists.
A few people in the comments, going back to names in the comments, Luton strikers Adebayo. I don't know if anyone mentioned Carlton Morris, but I like him as well. We've just discussed them before, but more realistic, Chris, unless we've got a ton of money that we don't know about.
Yeah, I think the start of the summer we had a discussion here with Mark about Morris. You were saying Morris, and I was saying Adebayo, and I know Mikey's sweet on Adebayo as well. I think the thing is, what are our expectations for this season? Like, do we want to thrash out 40, 50 million on a top class striker and then put ourselves under pressure at the back end of the season again? Or are we happy enough with what we have? If we knew Wood was going to survive the whole season, I think we'd probably stick with him. But we don't. And I just think that we're better off buying a sort of 10, 20 million pound striker, 20, 25 million pound striker like an Adebayo or something, bring him in, and then he can sort of be the replacement and rotational replacement when Taiwo's not fit or when Wood needs a rest. I just don't think we need to be spending that much money on a striker. I do want a striker. I do think we need one, but I just don't want us putting ourselves under pressure next season to sell and flip again. I know we're holding out probably for Murillo a season later for a bit more money, but we don't know what's going to happen this season with him. I just think let's get a third striker in, but keep it under 30 million if we can. Adebayo looks like the exact type of profile we're looking for. We need someone tall, strong, bring the ball down, lay it off to some of the wingers, bring Gibbs White into the game, turn into the pocket. They're the kind of strikers we need. And we certainly don't need to be spending too much on a third striker right now, because they will end up being second or third striker if Taiwo's fit, because Taiwo is our main man. But yeah, that's kind of my main sort of theme of the argument is I just feel like the expectation is, let's get a big striker and spend loads of money, but I just don't think we should be. I think we should be looking at sort of top end championship strikers to try and bring them in and then get them to compete with Wood and rotate in when Taiwo's fit.
It's the ambitions of the owner, though, isn't it, Temps? Because that's our mindset as fans. His mindset as an owner is been proven to be so different. I mean, he wants it all and he wants it now, which is good. Mostly, I've said this before, really good in the Premier League. I don't think he was necessarily perfect for the Championship, but if there's money that he can drop for that kind of striker, he'll do it, and he'll back Nuno if that, even, no matter how ambitious the name is, I guess.
Well, those players both showed flashes across that season to suggest they could live with the level, but they were a relegated strike force in a team that also celebrated Doughty and Barkley and one or two others. So no, I don't think Marinakis would abide that. And I think also there's a resignation to the fact that we are going to sell Murillo in this summer 25 transfer window, and that will realise north of £50 million. So I think there would be a willingness to make that move now, knowing that it's a more calculated risk if there is a plan or potentially even some kind of tacit agreement in place to let Murillo look towards those clubs playing European football ahead of 25-26. So yeah, I just wonder if we might be surprised by that. It is a priority area for recruitment if we're to get to the next level. These guys have helped us to get where we are, and that's a formidably tough level to play football at, but are they going to get us to where the owners want to be? Because I love this. Their ambition probably goes north of the fans' ambition. We'd be satisfied with 13th, 14th, 15th this season in the main. But that's not where they're aiming. That's not the mindset of a billionaire. And yeah, to your point, Matt, I think they probably would be slightly dismissive, which is unfair to those players because they shone at times last season.
Yeah, I think so. Just lastly on Sosa then, and we didn't really explain what the situation was. There was a report earlier, a statement from Talares, his club, just saying like basically it read like there was a deadline to negotiate the deal and it's passed, but it didn't completely close the door on it. It was a bit again. They reading up on them, they're kind of like the Daniel Levy of Mexican football. They're hard-nosed negotiators. So are you resigned to that one being over, Chris? Are you gutted if it is over? Did you like the sound of him or not?
I'm not gutted either way, really. I've been looking for a striker all pre-season and we keep buying wingers, but I don't know enough about him. From what I've seen, he looks really good. But yeah, I don't think the door is closed either, to be honest. Money talks, and if we want him, we'll get him. That's how I see it, particularly with, you know, how ambitious Marinakis and the ownership is. If they want a player, they'll go and get them. There won't be an issue there. So no, I don't think the door is shut. But either way, I'm not too pushed. I just want us to focus on that striker area more than anything. And maybe this Galeno thing is to try and tip them over the edge and make them go for the deal and make them worry about losing that money. But I think 12, 15 million, maybe a little more, might be big enough for them to take a player off their hands. I think they'd be happy enough, to be honest. So yeah, no, door's not closed, and I'm not bothered either way, to be honest. I want that striker.
Pat mentions Eddie Nketiah in the comments. I think I saw Marseille pushing for him at like, again, 35, 40 million for a player who's really, you know, he's good. I think has he got an England cap? He's been in squads, but it just shows the premium you have to pay for English Premier League players. That's a lot of cash for Arsenal's third, fourth choice striker. So, but yeah, maybe he would come in and do really well for us. Simon F in the comments says, get Temps in 3k a week. Here's a question, Temps. You play 38 games for Forest on as a left winger. Would you score any Premier League goals?
Yeah, because I'd be on penalties, so there's no question.
You're not on penalties. You're not on penalties. Would you score? Do you think if you played 38 games or anyone played 30, could you get a goal off your backside?
No, I'd get my head kicked in. I think the pace and physicality of these boys, it would be so disrespectful for me to even suggest that I'd make the bench, let alone score a Premier League goal. So I'll shut that one down straight away and hope someone comes to my rescue in the comments. But the reason the reason that I've scored a couple of bangers on social media is because of the relative level that I'm playing at, and not because of my skill compared to Anthony Elanga or Callum Hudson-Odoi. So no, I'm not capable of scoring a Premier League goal.
I'm glad you said that, because
Temps has gone all modest now that it gets serious. But like, I love that this podcast has turned into, could Temps play in the Premier League? Like, it's gone that far. It's brilliant. Listen, I reckon you get one goal if there was a free kick. You know what I mean?
No.
Do the old Ben Osborne, someone flick it up to you and volley it in. You're good at the volley, so I think one goal. Why not?
I asked it because I see people say, "Oh, if I played up front like Haaland, I could score in that Man City team," and the answer is no. You will get kicked to all hell. Anyone who plays in the Premier League. So I'm glad Temps said that, because
I don't think we understand the level. I think a lot of people have played Deliveroo now, mate. My burrito is just probably going cold at the door at this moment.
Go in and get it. Go and get it. Go and get it.
So the relative level of someone playing in the step 7 to get into step 6 of English football is immense. It's an absolute gulf. And there are giants in League 1 and League 2 would be embarrassed in the Premier League. It's an absolute gulf. And it's the World League. We're so blessed that our team is in this position. And yeah, I can't overstate the differences between the steps in the English pyramid.
Go and get your burrito before we wrap up. Go and answer it, and then I want to hear what's on said burrito. I've already had Chinese tonight, and I've drunk a pint of water while we're doing this.
I've had pizza and wings as well, so I'm happy enough.
Have we all had takeaway tonight?
Yeah, well, I had pizza and wings before I jumped on. I was washing my hands, running to the mic. Yeah. So, yeah. No, he's right, by the way, about the level. It's like I've played against a couple of Irish pros, and it was like embarrassing. It's like playing tennis against someone who is ridiculous at tennis and you can't touch the ball. It's the same in football. It's just no chance whatsoever. But I give Temps a chance. I always give Temps a little bit of a chance. But don't tell him I said that. Yeah, he won't be back for a minute. There he is.
Here he is. I'll let him put his headphones back on, and then we'll wrap up, because there's still 770 people watching us talk about takeaway. If you are one of those 770 people and you haven't hit like already, do us a favour. I'll come to Temps after he's unwrapped his stuff and got his headphones back in. What's in your burrito?
What isn't on my burrito, mate? Chicken, Mexican rice, beans, pico de gallo, sour cream cheese, guacamole, chorizo. It's an absolute Mexican indulgence. Like this. Yeah.
Oh, all this time always in the gym. What stuff, he eats like an absolute horse. It's ridiculous. Right, let's finish up talking about football. Chris, I think this is the last time you'll be on before the season starts. I don't think you're with us before then. Give us your final thoughts, and we'll do this on Tuesday with everyone. Give us your prediction as we sit here right now for where we're going to finish this season.
I think we'll finish 14th. I think we'll finish 14th. I've said that for a while. 13th, 14th. And I think look, I might be slightly overconfident with that, but we've had a really good preseason. I think teams like Ipswich have invested well, but I think they're going to get a mighty shock when they enter the league. I think Leicester are going to be in a little bit of trouble, potentially PSR trouble, maybe some deductions, but I think they'll scramble a little bit as well when they start. I think we could do better than some of the Brentfords and Bournemouths, two teams who might lose their star strikers. I think we'll finish 14th. I think we've had a really, really, really solid preseason. I've been really happy with it. The last couple of years, we've mentioned them to death. The preseasons weren't great and they didn't help at all. And we were just very disjointed, but we made of it what we could and we survived. Now it's time to kick on, and I think we will. And I think the depth is there to see, the whole way through preseason. We've got out unscathed as well. We had a slight scare today with Sangari. We had a bit of a scare with Anderson somewhere at the beginning of preseason. And we've got out unscathed, and probably going to make 1 or 2 more signings before the window closes as well. I'm predicting a good season for Forest, 14th and up. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the season, and I'm probably going to be at Bournemouth next week. So yeah, looking good.
Good. I'm not going to ask Temps for his prediction because he's on Tuesday, but I will come back to Temps for final thoughts. Shout out to Mikey. As Boynesy said, Mikey was watching the game at, I think, 3 a.m. or 2:30 a.m. He was messaging me from the Philippines at 2:30 a.m. the other night. His his body clock's completely messed up with work, but he is following Forest from the other side of the world. A few quick predictions that people have dropped in then. Richard says 14th. Going Beyond the Illusion says 10th. Tom Peniston has got us down for a top half finish. Richard Spray 12th. Nico Belic had us in 8th. Obviously, we're going to win the league. And Chris Head says 14th, and a few others kind of jotted around 11th to 15th to 10th. Basically that. But Temps, keep your powder dry on that before Tuesday, because you'll be with us then. Just any final thoughts on what you've seen in pre-season? Anything you want to add before we depart?
Just talking's over. Time for the football. I still think there's players to come, but I'm happy with this set that we've got. I think familiarity will be the reason why we improve this season, and I think we'll beat Bournemouth on match day 1.
Excellent. Good note to end on. Like I say, Temps is back tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I'm back tomorrow. Temps is back on Tuesday. I'm back tomorrow with my namesake, Matt Davis Adams, who's commentated on all the Forest pre-season games. So we'll get his thoughts on that. And then back on Monday with Prutz, I think, is the plan. And then pre-season preview on Tuesday. I think it's just me and Lewis on Wednesday having a chat as well. And then Bournemouth preview on Thursday, and kind of full steam ahead because it is upon us. Right. Loads of people with us tonight, which is great. Do us a favour, like I keep saying, do hit like on the video because it does make a big difference. Subscribe if you haven't already, and do consider becoming a channel member. Right. Great stuff. Really enjoyed that. Chris Aylmer, when is your next podcast, I should say?
Well, we're actually entering our sort of 5th or 6th season for the Forest All Over podcast, and next week we'll have an early sort of season opener. Me and Matt will do that, and then at the back end of the week we'll have our Forest All Over the World international guests on, and we'll probably continue that through the season. So hopefully the post-match, pre-match, 2 a week, and 1 always with the Forest All Over the World guests coming on, telling us their thoughts from different parts of the world, which would be pretty cool. So probably Monday, I'd say. Monday, Tuesday, I imagine will be our next episode, and we'll be starting up YouTube for God's sake. I didn't want to do it, but we might have to do a little bit of it. So for 1 or 2 of the episodes a week, we'll be starting up YouTube. Look out for that as well. But yeah, thanks for the plug, Matt. Really appreciate it. Love coming on these, and I'm looking forward to the season.
Chris, do you ever have people on from Nottingham, or does that not count as all over the world?
Matt technically is from Nottingham, but he lives between Nottingham and London. So my co-host, Matt, sorry. No, we do, of course. But we try and get the most remote fans. So we've had people in China. We had a guy who was army uniform in the back of a truck in Hawaii. He was listening to Forest games on his transistor radio, or whatever you call it, as he was in the woods in training. So that's kind of like the theme of it, and we try and get those people on. So yeah, of course we get people from Nottingham on, but look, I'm Irish. I lived in Canada. I know what it's like to follow Forest from different parts of the world, and I think it's quite an interesting thing to do. But Temps, I'd love to have you on anytime, as long as you can talk about scoring volleys from 50 yards, or playing Premier League football, or eating a burrito, whatever it is. You're a star to me, so you can come on anytime.
I don't think my residence is in an exotic enough location, Chris. I'll do it when I'm on holiday.
I'd love it. Yeah.
We'll let Temps go because he wants to eat his burrito. And I did listen. Well, I listened to the last Forest All Over podcast, and you really lost your rag with Matt for eating throughout the stream. So you weren't. Yeah, so we can't have Temps eating because you were fuming at the other Matt.
Well, he eats on the mic. You can't have someone chewing on the mic while they're talking. He does it relentlessly and regularly, and he doesn't do what Temps did, which is sit there politely, say nothing, and wait till we're done. He just marches through it, and it's horrendous to listen to. Like, it's horrible. But yeah,
lads, I'd rather eat cold food. I'd rather eat cold food than interrupt you two.
Right. On that note, we will leave it there. Michael Temple, thank you very much.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for the opportunity to plug Family Day on Sunday at Trent Bridge as well. Notts v Essex. £1 entry for kids. If you want to watch the game in relative peace, we'll keep them entertained behind the stands.
Yeah, do it. There you go. Good plug from Temps. Happy birthday, Mrs. Davis, as well. Patient to let me do this on her birthday. So, yeah, great. Good note to end on. Appreciate everyone's company. Have a good day. Hopefully see you tomorrow. But if not, we shall see you soon.